Hello.
How's it going?
Welcome back.
Yeah, we've it's been a while.
We had a
feels
little
like, huh?
hiatus.
Yeah, we did.
Summer
yeah.
break.
We kind of cheated by putting in a recorded one.
Gotcha.
You don't know that, but we did.
Yeah, well, here we are.
What's happening?
Back to school is happening. And on some levels, yes, the traffic is back.
And August, it's early August.
Right. It's like I'm sending my kids to school with ice in their water bottles and sunscreen because it's 95 degrees outside and it's hard for them. But on the bright side, summer camp doesn't start till like 9:30 a.m. They're back in at 8 a.m. and I'm on my way to work. So that's really nice. This is a much longer day, a more set schedule.
Yeah.
So my son started first grade.
Wow.
Really
already?
Cute. All the kids. Yeah.
Like just yesterday he was born.
I know. It's going really fast.
Yeah.
It kind of tugs at the mommy heartstrings, but he did jump into my arms and was kissing me in line on the first day. He was a little nervous. And I thought this is definitely the last year he will do something like this on the playground.
Probably.
So I really embraced it.
More than likely. But all the things that go with it, right? The shopping, the back to school shopping, the the emergency cards you have to fill out ad nauseum.
Yeah, right.
The parent, what are those things? The back to school nights.
Oh well, yeah. I had back to school night. You got to go sit in the little chair.
Because I hated that.
Well, I feel like after a while it's the same routine. Once you're used to it, forget it.
Okay.
It's all new.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Okay. I know what you're gonna say. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Why don't you just send me an email? Can you do that? It'd be fine. I get it. I'm not. Not my first rodeo.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm just got a little bit of a break coming up here. I can relax a little bit from some of my side, things that I've been involved in.
Your
I
side
slow
jobs.
those down. Yeah, so it's going to be
hallelujah.
Like tonight, I'm actually going to be able to sit down and watch a movie for the first time in a long time. Yeah,
I've never known you to do something like that.
What
are you going to watch?
I'm doing it. It's there's a thing called The Lincoln Lawyer. It's on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hear it's good.
And I love it because it's a legal thing, And so I get to watch that, and I'm just going to sit back and just enjoy the fireworks and stuff. It's going to be so fun.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to send you a bunch of emails.
Yep. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, be sure and do that. Welcome to A Place of Possibility. We are happy you are here. I am Richard Del Monte.
And I'm Angela Wright.
Thanks for being here with us. So what are we talking about today,
Okay.
Mrs. Wright?
So we are talking about tax loss harvesting. You've probably heard this word floating around this year.
Yeah, I mean, are we talking crops or what? Are we having it for dinner, harvesting?
No.
We have corn? What's going on? I don't understand that.
No, this is not the edible kind.
Okay.
It literally means selling an asset like a stock for a lower price than you purchased it at, you originally paid for it.
And why would I want to do that? I mean, don't you want to buy low and sell high? Isn't my goal to make money?
How have we been beating that into your head this entire time?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. But, the idea here is that sometimes stocks especially experience losses. And when you sell an investment at a price lower than what you paid for it, that loss is tax deductible in many cases.
Okay.
Right? So let's say you buy a stock for $10 and now it's worth $5. So and if you sell it at $5, you've got a $5 loss on that stock that you could potentially write off against your income. So we're going to spend some time today talking about what tax loss harvesting is, how to do it, and when you would want to do it and when you wouldn't want to do it. Another important consideration.
Right. Okay. So that makes sense, right? So let's talk for a minute about how you do this. How do you harvest tax losses? You don't have to go out with a knife and get your tractor out. Yeah. Or one of those, clippers, like you're taking grapes off of the vines. No, it is kind of like that though, right? It isn't sort of. So the logistics for you DIYers out there, you want to look in your portfolio and find a stock or a bond or an exchange traded fund or a mutual fund that has a loss from when you purchased it. And you go online or however you do it, and you enter an order to sell that particular those shares of that. And you can determine how much of a loss you want to actually recognize depending on how much loss you have in the account. It's really important, though, that you have to remember that you cannot just buy the same security back right after you sell it. Because you don't want to be out of the market, right?
Yeah, well, I think backing up for a second, for those that don't know, sort of the idea behind tax loss harvesting is that you sell and you you harvest that loss, but then you don't want to not be in the market.
Right.
So you need to buy something, because what if the market's going to come back. You want to stay in. So what can you do?
I mean, so basically you have to buy something else. You can't buy the same security back.
Yeah.
For 30 days, you have to be out of it for 30 days. And so then the point is you want to buy something else that's quite similar to it, right? So if you sell an S&P 500 fund, you go in and buy maybe like a Schwab 1000 fund or an actively traded fund or something that's a little bit very close, going to get the same kind of returns, but not quite the same.
And you're not sitting out of the market for that period.
Exactly.
What about when you're looking at your losses? We were talking earlier about lots, like determining.
Good point.
Right. Because you maybe bought it at different times. Can you talk about that some more?
So let's say if you've owned a security for a long period of time, you probably have reinvested dividends, or you might have bought more shares at different times over the time. Say you're doing dollar cost averaging or something. So you have all kinds of different prices that you paid for the security. Those are each time you buy another piece of the security, they call it a tax lot. So if you look at your holdings of this fund or this investment, you might have some lots that you've lost money on, while other ones you've got a gain on, right? So you want to cherry pick and only sell the tax lots that have gone down, not the ones that have gone up. And you can do that. You can identify the lots. You have to go, I don't know, every broker dealer or provider is got a different way of doing it, but there are ways to identify the lots that you want to sell.
Awesome.
And that's the way to go to maximize your losses.
All right. So you've found the thing with the loss, you've sold it, you've purchased something back similar, but not the exact same thing. Otherwise, you have what's called a wash sale. If you sell Amazon, you buy Amazon back the next day, the IRS will disallow that loss. You found something similar. So now you've captured a loss, but you're still in the market invested. Pretty sweet scenario. Yep. That in essence is tax loss harvesting.
And we're done. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Yep.
Okay, but
thanks for coming out.
So here's an interesting thing, right? About choosing a different asset. Let's say, you go into something, kind of different, right? You had an S&P 500 fund, and then you go to an
actively managed fund.
Yeah, actively managed large cap stock fund, which would be similar-ish.
Yeah.
Same idea. But then let's say you want to go back to that S&P 500 fund after 30 days.
Yeah.
Right? You have this potential problem where what if the market, like in July, shot up?
Right.
Right. So now you've got a big gain in the new security that you bought.
Right.
What do you do?
So if you sell it and now you got a gain that offset your loss you just took, kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, every situation is different. You have to look and see. You might just want to keep the second fund that you bought and just that's your fund from now on. Because otherwise, why recognize that gain? Yeah,
so that's an important thing to consider as you're choosing the fund that you're going to go into. You might not be there just for 30 days. You might end up holding on to it.
Yeah, you might. So make sure you pick well the next one you're going to buy.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Good point.
Okay, so here's what the things you want to know about recognizing losses. You cannot recognize tax losses in a qualified plan like an IRA, a Roth IRA, a 401k at work, any of those kinds of plans. It doesn't work.
Yep.
It also doesn't work like in a 529 plan or something like that.
Good point.
It doesn't work.
Anything with a tax shelter.
Right.
Right. Because you're not normally taxed on the comings and goings on a daily basis in those accounts.
Or your HSA. Some people have HSAs with health savings accounts. But you can't do it in those. It has to be a regular taxable account. So that would be like for most people, a joint account, a community property account, an individual account in your name, or a transfer on death account from you to somebody else, that would get the money if you die.
Living trust
account. Very good. Thank you. I didn't think about that one. Right. So those are the ones that it works in. So let's start out with a situation now. We're going to give you some scenarios of when this would work and when it wouldn't.
Yeah. Story time.
Yeah. Okay. Story time. Right. So let's start off with saying that you have sold something in your portfolio that has a $50,000 capital gain this year. But you also have some holdings in your account that have lost money. So let's say you wanted to recognize potentially a $25,000 loss in the things that you have that have gone down. If you sell those holdings that have had losses during the same year that you recognize the $50,000 gain, you'll only be paying tax on the net amount, right? The $25,000 of net gain. So for a married couple that's maybe in California that has $150,000 of adjusted gross income, the tax savings are going to be almost $6,100 by doing
Wow.
just that, by saving the tax on that $25,000 by recognizing a loss.
Wow.
It's important, right?
Worth the effort.
For sure,
And you
yeah.
get to stay invested because you went and bought something similar.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, it would be even better if you save that $6,000 in taxes and you turn around and stick it in a Roth IRA if you're still working. Now you've invested a tax savings that never gets taxed.
Now you're talking on steroids,
now you're
right?
sticking it to the
That's
IRS.
the way to make it. You're locking that gain in, baby. They never get it. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's go into another scenario. So say married couple, they make $150,000 a year. But let's say in this case, they have no capital gains. Nothing, that $50,000 gain is off the table. It's 2022. Everything went down for them. So in this case, they still have that $25,000 loss, let's say, right? And so if they take but they also want to maybe sell a house. So let's make it a little bit complicated and fun and see what they can do.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you sell at a $25,000 loss, you have nothing to write that off against in that year. Right.
No gains.
Right. And the IRS caps you can write capital losses up to $3,000 against your income. So ordinary income. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
That's
so
wages, interest, dividends, things like that.
W-2 stuff,
right,
business income, what have you, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, if they go ahead and do that in this year, pretty cool. They save like $900 and something if you make $150,000 a year. So, you know, it's not a terrible thing to do, but you've got all this left over. Well, now let's say the same couple calls us and says, hey, we're planning on selling our house next year. It's a house in California, so we're going to have $1 million gain on the house.
Which is
feasible,
entirely reasonable, right?
Right. So the IRS allows a married couple to write off $500,000 of capital gains on the sale of a house.
Right.
So they're stuck with this $500,000 gain on the house. But they harvested a $25,000 loss last year.
Right.
And they still have $22,000 of it to use up. So what they do is they write the $22,000 capital loss from last year against the new capital gain from the sale of the house this year. And now they get to save a little over $7,000 in taxes because their tax bracket went up when their income went up. We added $500,000 of income to this $150,000 a year couple. So we jacked their tax bracket up to like 33%. So now the savings on that $22,000 loss is
much higher,
larger. Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah. So overall, for that same $22,000 loss in this planning case, the client got to write off like over $8,000 of losses. Big jump compared to that first scenario. You got $2,000 more because of what happened to the income.
And it's a really smart thing to do. And it's really the proverbial turning lemons into lemonade, right?
Yep. Totally.
Yep. So you take losses and use them for something good. Here's another scenario where it's not a good idea to do tax loss selling or harvesting. Let's say you're married and your income is around $60,000 in that particular year. And you sold an asset with a $50,000 capital gain. Okay. And so you have a chance to harvest that $25,000 that's in your portfolio that's got a loss. Do you do it?
So kind of the same scenario as scenario one, except the income is $60,000 instead of $100,000,
right,
$150,000.
Right. And so in this example, before we said, yes, absolutely, you should do it. In this example, if you only have $60,000 in other income, not including the $50,000 of gain, you're able to recognize the $50,000 capital gain and pay nothing in tax.
What?
People don't believe that, but essentially, a married couple can have up to $110,000 of any kind of mix of gains and ordinary income, and the gain part is not going to be taxed. Now, I should add, California taxes you a little teeny bit because they don't have a special rate for capital gains. Yeah. So you might pay a couple $1,000s in tax in that scenario. But so if that was the case, you would not want to recognize your capital losses that year or harvest them with your machete because it's not going to do anything for you. You already are not paying any tax on those gains. So you would be wasting it. They would force you to use it against the gains. So you would make the gains zero, but they're already zero.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want to do it. Right. So that you have to know where you're at.
Right.
That's a really important thing.
Right.
So it'd be better to hold off and maybe sell the losses next year if you have a higher tax bracket for some reason.
Yeah. Or if you still have the losses, sometimes you
they
lose
go
the
away.
opportunity. And
Like look what happened this year. We had losses, big losses in June, and a lot of them, they're about 50% or more evaporated.
Yeah. So if you're in a really low tax bracket for whatever reason, you might want to think about skipping the tax loss harvesting. And, just saving yourself the time and energy and go back to buy low, sell high.
Go watch The Lincoln Lawyer.
Or potentially harvest some gains in that case, right? Take advantage of your low. Maybe you have low income in 1 year because, I don't know, you were off work for a disability or something like that.
For whatever reason.
It was the year you retired and you were living off of savings or something.
Right.
Like maybe you realize those capital gains.
Right.
Or maybe your income is going to spike or something.
Next year,
and you don't have any gains to write it off against this year, right? So it doesn't get like gobbled up.
Right.
In that case, maybe it makes sense.
Yeah, because you can carry it forward.
Exactly.
Into future years, right? Yeah. So that would happen like if you had some kind of spike in income, like what? Social Security?
Yeah, let's say you started Social Security, or you are turning 72 and you have to start taking your required minimum distribution.
Right.
Something like that.
So then you're going to have a tax and you'd want to use this to offset that in the future. So it'd be valuable to do it.
Yeah.
So these are really good points, Angela, and it's worth noting, I think, that a really good financial advisor, this is our self-serving advertisement, but really, honestly, a good self-serving, a good advisor is going to be having these conversations with you and understand where you are in your own tax situation and be able to tell you when it makes sense to recognize these losses or not. That's because if you don't do it in the year that you could have done it, it's like sand that just went through your hands. It's gone. It's gone forever. Yeah.
I think this is one of the valuable things that financial planning does for people is helps by, coordinating all of these different moving parts and having people who are thinking about all of the possible scenarios 1, 10, 20 years, in advance. A lot of times when we're working on our own finances, we're kind of, you can't see the forest through the trees. You're just like, okay, I got this thing this year and this is what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
But, there's like really awesome strategies that you can use to, set yourself up to win over multiple years.
Right. And a lot of times the average person doesn't know how the laws are going to impact them in the future. Like what happens how many people out there know that if you have a low income, you could recognize up to $110,000 of capital gains and pay nothing in tax?
Raise your hand if you knew
People
that.
don't know that. That's not a thing that people are understanding.
Yeah.
And so, again, self-serving advertisement, the robo advisors are not going to help you with that. No. The computer's not going to tell you when you're when you're in a situation like that. Yeah. So,
really good point.
Yeah. So, okay. So
let's look at some questions
from the audience.
I see them coming in here. All right.
Got one?
So yes. Are there times when I should generate a capital gain instead of harvesting a loss?
Yeah. Great question. Okay. Let's go back.
We started touching on that.
Yeah, we did. So let's say you're in that situation. You're that couple that makes $60,000 and you've got some gains in your portfolio. You could recognize those without paying any tax, as we said before. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right. Because if you do it, you don't pay any tax to speak of on it. Later on, when you do need the money, or if your kids need money, you need to give them something or whatever, you can sell some shares that have already been, the tax has already been not paid, but it's been, the gain has been acknowledged, right? It went from unrealized to realized, and now there's no more tax to pay on the gain. So that would make sense. Every year you should really be thinking about, oh, maybe I should recognize some gains as part of your planning.
Yeah.
If you're in that
totally.
level, right?
Yeah. And if we could just take this, question to the next level, kind of a pro planning strategy here is you can gift, like, let's say a lot of people gift money to their kids, or you're paying for your children's college. Like, let's say you're cutting checks out of your checkbook for your kids' college tuition. You could instead, like, if they have less than, what's it for a single person?
Oh, it's half that.
It's 50,000.
Yeah. About 60. 55,
so they have less than 55,000 in income. They probably do as a student. You, instead of cutting a check, gift them an appreciated security. They then sell the security with no capital gains tax, and they use that to fund their college education.
I mean, how brilliant is that?
Hello. So awesome.
It's better than any 529
if you're just
plan,
giving
honestly.
your kids, checks every year, gift them that stock instead and let them, you shift the gain.
Yep.
And this is especially true if you are in a high income bracket, like over 400,000, and you're paying a higher capital gains tax rate, even like
plus the other Obamacare, Medicare tax and all that stuff.
Yeah. So even if it were like, let's say you're in the 20% capital gains tax bracket and your kid's in the 15, it might even make sense to shift it at that point if you're already gifting money to them.
Because don't forget, you have state income tax.
Yeah.
And you might be, if you're in that kind of bracket, probably for the state, you might be in a 13.3% bracket where your kid might be at 0.
Yeah.
So the difference is just astronomical. We call this tax arbitrage, right?
Yes.
Where you can the one thing you have to be careful for if you're going to do that, if you're going to gift appreciated securities to your kids, is the kiddie tax, right? There's a kiddie tax if your kids are in college and under a certain age. I think it's 21. They have to pay the same tax rate that you would have to pay if you sell it. So you got to be really careful.
Older
when
kids.
You do that. Our strategy, sometimes we're getting into college planning, but what we'll do is we'll have the parents give the kids the asset, and the kids wait until after the kiddie tax has been expired. Meantime, they get student loans to pay for the school. And then after they get to a certain age, then they sell the stock, have no tax to pay off the student loans. Boom, boom, boom. No tax, no nothing. It's all done.
Yes.
It's really, really cool.
We promise to give you an episode on college planning.
We are. Yeah. We keep talking about, should we do college planning this time? Well, maybe something else comes up.
Things keep coming. I mean, tax loss harvesting has been on the tips of everybody's tongues. If you're a Dumb Money Group client, you've probably seen it going on in
we're doing
your portfolio,
all the time.
or we're blabbing on about it to you.
Sure.
So, it's a hot topic. So I hope that this was helpful for everybody. Thanks for joining us today and hearing more about it. Anything else?
No. Awesome. Are you gonna?
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, we have a new book to offer you. We did not write this one. It's called The Investment Answer. It's one of our favorites about investing. It really covers like everything you need to know to be an educated investor from sort of scientific standpoints. No throwing darts against the wall.
Yeah, and it's a very thin little book. It takes about an hour or two at night to read. I'll give you a couple hours. It's a one night read. And it can totally transform your relationship to investing, helps you understand what really is true about investing and what's made up. And, it helps you to save a lot of money and make a lot of money.
Yeah. So you can send us an email to the info@aplaceofpossibility, put book in the subject, and we'll get that right out to you. Give us your address so we can send it to you, please.
Yeah, right. We need that. Right.
So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or to the podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can also get some other good material if you sign up on our mailing list. Please call or email us with any questions or topic ideas. We want to know what you want to hear about. And then if you want to schedule a meeting with us, you can click on our calendars in the show description. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. And remember, you're invested and so are we. Take care.